So how about that Superman trailer? I'm not gonna lie, it's got me pretty excited. So for this impromptu video, I'm going to be talking about Superman. Now don't get it twisted. This isn't a trailer analysis or a reaction to the trailer. I think that need has already been satisfied. What I wanted to do with this video is basically breaking down the influences for comics that I spotted in the trailer. Hopefully, at the very least, you're introduced to a book that you didn't know about before. And at the most, I've earned your subscription to the channel. That's what I like to call a subtle hint. Now hit 'em with the title sequence. Okay, the first on the list is Action Comics 775. It was written by Joe Kelly with art by Lee Bermejo and Doug Mahnke. The title of this issue is What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way. If you've been online for any type of Superman discourse, you've probably either read or at least heard of this issue. It depicts a new team of heroes named the Elite, who are realistically just stand-ins for the Authority. If you want to know more about them, you can refer to Owen Likes Comics' recent video talking about the Authority. These new heroes burst onto the superhero scene, but they're not like other big blue Boy Scouts. They kill people. Almost immediately, the public support sways from Superman to the new heroes that kill their villains. Superman struggles to maintain his dignity and his moral code while also unraveling the Elite's underlying villainous plan. It's a story about the power of righteousness that Superman portrays, as well as being an aspirational figure. Thematically, it presents the notion that society inherently has a bias towards revenge through capital punishment. And in the modern age, we shouldn't be embracing pessimism, but instead embracing compassion. Now, for the film, we know at least one of the Authority's members will be in the film. This one, of course, is the Engineer. But why is the Authority able to make it into a DC Universe film if I had just said that DC had to use stand-ins for these characters? Well, the Authority was originally a part of Jim Lee's Wildstorm universe, which he founded over at Image, but once he moved over to DC, his creations came with him. So now the Authority is integrated into the DC universe. Don't you love the complexity of corporate-owned IP? How I think that the story is going to play a role in the Superman film is we're starting off with a new and fresh Superman in an already established universe. His entry into the universe is going to call into question the status quo of superheroics. Based on the costumes, the Justice League members include Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl, and Metamorpho, but they're outside of their typical costumes, and instead they look like they have logos from Lord Tech. Lord Tech is owned by Maxwell Lord, who's a corporate executive and a massively complex villain within the DCU. I think that this Justice League will be operating as government contractors for the United States, obviously being owned by Lord Tech and contracted out to do the will of the US government. When Superman arrives in Metropolis, the powers that be want to recruit him, but he immediately rejects the offer. I don't think that he would take too kindly to the US government saying who they can save and who they can't, leading to an illusion of Marvel's Superhero Registration Act and having the government call on the Justice League to take on Superman. When the government realizes that they can't take down this unstoppable force, they find that they need to create their own, which actually leads me into the next book. Superman Unchained is written by Scott Snyder with art by Jim Lee. It depicts Superman having to take on a new villain named Wraith. This is the book that I think is going to serve as the primary inspiration for the story that's being told, and specifically the reason why the character Ultraman is here. Based on set pictures, we see a person in a full body suit with a U symbol. The suit is also pretty similar to Doomsday's containment suit. We'll get back to that in a minute. Rumors say that he's Ultraman, but I don't think that that's 100% correct. Ultraman is the Superman of Earth 3. This is the Earth that all of the characters' alignments are flipped, so every hero is a villain and vice versa. What a novel concept. An evil Superman. Nobody's thought of that before. Wait. So getting back to the Wraith, his origins are quite similar to Superman's. However, instead of being adopted by the Kents, Wraith was adopted by the United States government. Well, I for one can see nothing that could possibly be a problem with that. Oh, yeah, that's right. Wraith is used by the United States military as a weapon of mass destruction and enacting the will of American imperialism wherever they see fit. I believe that the use of the name Ultraman is a red herring. Specifically, I think that the United States military is going to want to offer up a counter to Superman if they can't contain him, and then they're going to contract out Luthor Corp, weird, to create their own Superman. So instead of Superman, it's Ultraman, because America always has to be bigger and better. James Gunn stated in multiple interviews that his Lex Luthor is going to be more in line with the Silver Age Lex, which is basically a Lex that is more of a mad scientist than a billionaire psychopath. I think that we have more than enough of those in the modern day, so I see why he wanted to make that differentiation. Being contracted by the military, I think that Lex is going to take a part of Superman's DNA, and he's going to attempt to replicate Superman into a weapon for the United States military. This does have precedent because in the New 52, the origin of Bizarro is that Lex created him. Now, I don't believe that Ultraman is going to literally be Bizarro. I think they're just going to be pulling from those origins in the New 52. Speaking of origins, let's talk about our next book. Superman Secret Origin was written by Jeff Johns and illustrated by Gary Frank. This is kind of a no-brainer to use as an adaptation for a Superman movie. While the book is good, it also reads like a film treatment that's really just on its hands and knees begging to be adapted. It also takes a lot of inspiration from the Richard Donner Superman films. Oh, fun fact, Jeff Johns and Kevin the Bald Cap Feige were actually assistants to Richard Donner. This isn't really relevant, I just thought it was neat. So there you go. Now, obviously, James Gunn is inspired by Richard Donner's films, hence why they used a modernized Williams theme in the trailer, which... did we need that? I mean, I like it and all, but we couldn't have gotten something new? Whatever, it's just my taste. If you like it, go for it. Anyways, back to Secret Origins. So the book shows the early years of Superman alongside Clark Kent's move to Metropolis. It gives the structural foundation of Superman's supporting cast, which are all confirmed to be in the film, and it also details the fundamental truths of the Superman mythos. So realistically, it's pretty difficult to adapt a new Superman without taking some kind of inspiration from this series. Now, I don't believe that this is all of the books that James Gunn is incorporating into the film. They're just the ones that haven't really been marketed by him on the lead up to this trailer. And once I watched the trailer, it was pretty difficult not to see those influences. So here's some other Superman books that I think are going to directly or indirectly influence the Superman film. All-Star Superman, the magnum opus written by Grant Morrison and illustrated by Frank Quitely. The story depicts the last days of Superman as he accomplishes these Herculean tasks. It's really the perfect distillation of what Superman means as a character. James Gunn has referred to this book as taking the primary inspiration, but obviously you can't do a new Superman and adapt a story about the last days of Superman. Superman Kryptonite is written by Darwin Cook and illustrated by Tim Sale. It's a book that details the dueling identities of Clark Kent and Superman, as well as how that impacts his relationship with everyone around him. Do you want to read a really good romance between Lois and Clark, and also a very fun relationship between Lex and Superman? Well, this is the book for you. Also, I covered this series on the channel before, so you can also go and watch that. Lastly, Superman Birthright, written by Mark Waid and illustrated by Lyneel Yu. It's another book that details the early years of Superman, and honestly, I prefer this over Secret Origin. It's a beautiful dissection of Superman while also telling a heartfelt and heartbreaking story. So it's got my recommendation. Now for the moment you've been waiting for. Homework. Do you want to start reading Superman ahead of the film's release? Well, I got you covered. So on the list, we have Superman Camelot Falls by Kurt Busiek and Carlos Pacheco. Superman Last Son of Krypton by Jeff Johns, Richard Donner, and Adam Kubert. Superman Secret Identity by Kurt Busiek and Stuart Immonen. Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow by Alan Moore and Kurt Swan. Also, For the Man Who Has Everything by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. Superman Smashes the Klan by Gene Luen Yang and Gurihiru. New 52's Action Comics by Grant Morrison and Rags Morales. And lastly, Superman and the Legion of Superheroes by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. Okay, so that should at least tide you over until the film comes out. What? You're already done reading? Well, I didn't account for that. Well, I guess you should just go down to the comments and tell me what you're looking forward to seeing in the new Superman film. And you could also subscribe to the channel. I wouldn't be against it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, go read some comics, or else.